Ambassador, a lot in the world has changed since you last held the presidency in February of 2024. What are your priorities as you lead the council this June?
Well, yes, a lot has changed since last time, but a lot has also remained the same. And the priorities for Guyana have not changed. But what we would like to focus this June in terms of Guyana's presidency and what we would like to zero in on is the link between poverty, underdevelopment, and conflict. And why? Because we are seeing a regression on the development side and we are seeing an increase in conflicts. I think it is important for us to look at the root causes of conflict. And we believe that underdevelopment and poverty play a very important role in that. So for our signature event on the 19th of June, we will have an open debate on this, which will allow all member states of the United Nations, not just the Security Council, an opportunity to share their views.
Ambassador, can you tell us a little bit more about your upcoming debate on children in armed conflict?
It's an annual debate, but this year I think the debate would bring added significance given what is happening in the world with children in armed conflict. The trend is not good at all. We're seeing an upsurge in children being harmed in conflicts indiscriminately. When we look at Haiti, when we look at Sudan, when we look at Gaza, Yemen, so many other places, it's not a good story. And I think that this debate would allow us to not only speak about what is happening, but bring attention to those who are the parties in armed conflict to roll back this ugly trend of harming our children.
You've been very outspoken on the conflict in Gaza, and you said recently that the council must take principled and urgent action. Can you explain that for us?
Well, I think it's extremely important for us to take action now. It's been important from the day this war started, but we have gone far past all boundaries, I would say. And to have a population facing starvation, facing famine, massive displacement. Some families have been displaced 10 times and more, and the situation is not improving. I think we have to focus on returning to a ceasefire. But more than that, I think it's important to focus on the long-term solution, which is the two-state solution. I don't think that anyone would expect that the security of Israel will be guaranteed without a solution in Palestine. And I think the two-state solution will certainly play an important role in guaranteeing the security both of Palestine and Israel. And I think both peoples deserve to live side by side in peace. So focusing on an immediate and permanent ceasefire, it's important, but also getting humanitarian aid into Gaza.
Gender equality, one of the Sustainable Development Goals. We're seeing a lot of women in leadership at the United Nations, the incoming UN General Assembly President. There's a big push for the next Secretary General to be a woman from your region. As a woman in leadership and with the experience you have, do you feel that it is getting better or the conditions somewhat easier to navigate?
I would say it's a mixed bag, and we're still not there yet globally. But if you disaggregate, you might see some very interesting and encouraging developments in individual countries. In my country, for example, we have many women in leadership. Our judiciary is led by women. We have in our parliament over 30% are women. At the level of regional and local leadership, we have many, many women. We have had in our history one woman president in our country. But when you take the UN, if we're just going to look at permanent representatives, we're just over 40 out of the 193. So we still have a far way to go there. But the Secretary General has been doing a fantastic job in ensuring gender equality in the staffing of the Secretariat. And in terms of senior management, they have reached parity. So that's very encouraging. In terms of the Secretary General, this year we're going to be going into our 80th session of the United Nations, so 80 years. And we have never had a woman Secretary General. Certainly, I think the best person for the job can be either a man or a woman, but because we haven't had a woman Secretary General in all these 80 years, people would be looking out to see that we have one this time.
You mentioned 80 years of the United Nations. Do you have any reflections on the body as it moves into the future and the importance of it in the world that we live in today?
I think that if the UN did not exist, we will have to invent it. And it is very difficult to do an evaluation of an institution's absence and what the world would be like. But for us, certainly, we believe that the UN has lived up to the vision that was set in 1945. It was to prevent the scourge of another war, like we've seen another world war. We have seen a number of conflicts these days, but by and large, I think the UN has lived up to its vision. One of the challenges we face is the UN is judged through the eyes of the Security Council, what it's able to do and what it's not able to do. But the UN is much more than the Security Council. The work that is being done by the UN on the ground with countries on development, for example, the work that the UN has been doing in the area of humanitarian assistance, without the UN being able to deliver in those emergencies, I shudder to think what would happen to our populations who are in need of emergency assistance. That said, 80 years is a time for reflection and a time for recalibration. Many believe that the flouting of international law that we've been seeing in these recent years with impunity and without any accountability must change. And this is why I think we have to look at the UN, make it more fit for purpose, go back to what it was established for, recalibrate and move on. But the UN is us, and it's up to us to make the UN what we want it to be.
Ambassador Carolyn Rodrigues-Birkett, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
UN Insider.